Good afternoon. My name is Laura Day. I'm a proud member of this year's 20th reunion class of 2004. Thank you very much. And I have the distinct pleasure of serving Williams as Assistant Vice President for Alumni Engagement. On behalf of all of us here in Williamstown, welcome home. Thank you so much for making the effort to be here and see and reconnect with each other, with your classmates and fellow alumni of the college this weekend. One of the great honors of my job is that I get to work closely with today's speakers and see firsthand the commitment and dedication to Williams. Let me share just a little bit about each of them. For the past year and 364 days, Brent Shay, class of 1978, has served all of us most graciously as president of the Society of Alumni. He's now in the final countdown of service in this role, and he'll be succeeded as president by Fumi Olasunde, class of 2006. There she is. During tomorrow's annual meeting. Brent's dedication to Williams is legendary and spans the entirety of his alumni experience. He is deeply motivated by keeping alumni connected to one another and to the college. An open sounding board and a positive advocate for all, Brent's committed leadership has benefited all of us over the last nearly 2 years. Please join me in welcoming and thanking Brent Shay. And it's also my pleasure to introduce the 18th president of Williams College, Maud S. Mandel. Apart from being the college's first woman president, which is historic in itself, the record of what Maud has already achieved in her 6 years here speaks volumes about her love for Williams and her understanding of what's truly special and unique about our school and our alumni community. She guided us through COVID and toward full reopening in the fall of 2020. She released a strategic plan for Williams in 2021 that we've all since been enacting. She announced the nation's first all-grant financial aid program. And that's right. And she championed the Davis Center initiative, culminating in the opening of our new Multicultural Center facility just this past April. And if you haven't been yet, I strongly encourage you to check it out while you're here on campus. Through it all, she has led with a focus on the student experience and embracing being a teacher from the president's office. Please join me in welcoming and thanking Maud Mandel. Now, before turning things over to Maud and Brent, I thought it'd be a nice way to start today just with a brief reminder of why we're all here. We're alumni, and before that, we were students. And just 5 days ago, we welcomed the newest class of alumni, the class of 2024. Here are some of the sights and sounds of this year's commencement.
On behalf of the college, I'd like to open these ceremonies by extending a warm welcome to all of you.
Congratulations to our families for raising us, to our faculty and staff for guiding us, and of course to us, the class of 2024. Thanks so much.
By carrying forward the values of our Williams community, you can make a positive impact wherever you go. Thank you. And congratulations to the class of 2024.
On behalf of the faculty, I have the honor to present the following candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts.
That was a fun day, I might say. Good afternoon, everyone, and let me offer you a huge welcome on behalf of the Society of Alumni. Nice to see a packed house today, and as I look around, I just want to comment that I had my 45th reunion last year, but seeing the class of 1979 here, I realized that the border between the two classes, it's very porous. A lot of that has to do with friendships, but also a lot has to do with romance between them. So it is also an honor and a pleasure to be with you, Maud. So thank you for joining us this afternoon for what we hope will be a lively conversation and a good chance for folks in the room to ask you a couple of questions. It's just so good to be here in Williamstown, and as everyone's already realized, that we have every type of weather in a 24-hour period. How we forgot that, I don't know, but that we're fortunate to be together for our reunions with so many opportunities for connection, never mind learning, and chances to engage all over campus with what's been happening while we've been tucked away in our own corner of the world. I had the honor of taking part in last week's commencement, and the spirit and the energy of that celebration really set the tone for our reunion this weekend. The themes of kindness, community, and reflection were both inspiring and reassuring. In particular, I want to share a quote from Phi Beta Kappa speaker Milo Chang, who said, "The term Williams community applies to more than those who get to list the school on their resumes. It includes everyone who has shaped our experiences here, and for my editor's note, I say most certainly that includes alumni." Milo continued, "Each of us has our own path, our own dreams to chase, yet as we branch off into new communities, remember the spirit of service we've seen modeled over the past 4 years. Even when we leave campus, we will remain part of this community." Wow. Maud, given all I've heard from our newest graduates who've been through quite a lot during their 4-year tenures here, I think we're okay. So the format here is pretty straightforward. Maud and I will chat for about 40 minutes or so, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers for 15 to 20 minutes. I have come up with 6 questions for Maud. Maud, I will admit there may be A and B portions. I tried my best to narrow it down, but the first question, given we're at an academic institution, will be a question on teaching. In a recent Williams Magazine column, you shared, Maud, just how important teaching remains to your identity, your leadership, even though you're not in the classroom as much as you used to be before you became president. Still, you follow in a long line of Williams leaders who continue to teach as part of your role. And you did it this year through a winter study course on higher education, leadership, and communications. As we gather here seeking to understand Williams today, could you share a little bit about your winter study experience and how that experience illuminated for you about current Williams students?
Of course, thank you, and thanks to everyone who's here today. Just before I answer your question, I just have to let folks know who don't know that one of the twists of the class of 2024's graduation was that this was the class, of course, that came in during COVID with all the testing and all the rules, and unbelievably, our commencement speaker got COVID. That wasn't captured on the video, but I thought I would share that with you. So we actually ended up recording him, and he spoke, and it ended up working out very well, but really, you can't make it up. That class has been through everything. And they took it with, with the fortitude that they have come to express. So yes, I did have the pleasure. I've been trying to teach regularly at Williams, and I'm trying to try all the different modes. So I've done a tutorial one year, and I did an upper level research seminar next, and then I really wanted to teach a winter study because I had never done that before, and it's such a big part of our curriculum. So I co-taught a course on leadership communications with Jim Reish, who's the head of communications here at Williams, and we designed the course to consider the whole range of communication practices that leadership needs to think about, from strategic planning and messaging out around that, mission, speech writing and formal presentations, and of course crisis communications. And I'll just share that last summer when we were developing the course, we said to each other, well, for the week on crisis communications, let's not plan what we're going to do, because surely something will come up. Needless to say. In any event, what was really fun about teaching the class is first of all, winter study itself is such a time of sort of innovative curriculum. It was obviously I wasn't teaching a standard history course the way I usually would, but getting to engage with students in this time that's so special to them when they can both study something they're interested in, but also have a little bit of fun. And one of the things that I really was struck by, and so pleased to see actually, was the range, first of all, on the one hand, of that work ethic I have come to know so well, the serious students interested in a topic, going deep, all the things that you would expect of them, but also a kind of joie de vivre of being in Williamstown in the winter when they had fewer commitments and really could spend time skiing and taking ski lessons. One of the students in the class was playing in the pit orchestra for an opera that was being produced. Others were doing other kinds of shows, and still others were trying to take advantage of optional courses that were available that they could take in their free time. And so it just had a kind of both sort of energy of the fun of learning, which I was so happy to see, but also I was really pleased to see them take advantage of some downtime too, because our students work so hard, and just having that release, I think, was really wonderful to see. And you had asked me what I see in the students by being in the classroom all the time, and what sort of marks them as distinctive. And I think there are a number of themes one can point to about current students that really link them to the long continuity of education at Williams, but also mark them as very 2024, as it were. And one area, of course, is the reality that they are just so fluent in the world of the digital. They are digital natives, and they operate in that space. They learn with it and through it. Folks ask me all the time about AI and its impact, and there are many ways in which that can be challenging as an educator, but it also can be really empowering. And watching them use it and learn through it and with it is a really important part of educating today. And of course, we continue to see the impact of COVID on these students, and the ways in which it's affected how they, the capacities they bring in with them and what they had to catch up on, and the importance, the really, really deep importance of learning together. In fact, at Williams, we do still require that all courses are in person now that we have that pandemic in our rearview mirror. But I think at least speaking personally, have come to so deeply appreciate how important that is actually to what we do here, and to see the students learn together in real time that way. And so it's just been really exciting to continue to be in the classroom with students, and to be able to learn with them and talk to them, particularly as we go through so many challenging moments as a country and as a society, because it keeps me really connected to mission, and to really why we do what we do. So thank you.
So my next question has to do with world events that have pierced the purple bubble.
Really? You're going to ask me about that? I'm shocked.
Certainly, it's been a challenging year for higher education, and perhaps nothing has generated more in headlines than campus responses to the ongoing war in Gaza. Knowing that some of us followed your approach more closely than others, could you share with us what has taken place at Williams since October 7th?
Got a minute? Yeah. So it's been a challenging year. I'm not sure which year has not been challenging, but there have been some challenges this year. I am going to go back a little, and I know some of you were at breakfast. I talked about this a little bit, so I'll try not to repeat myself too much. But I think it's important to understand the whole year. It's actually, I mean, just yesterday for folks reading the newspaper, there were more disruptions at Stanford, and it feels like every couple of days there's some new news that makes us forget where this all started and what's been going on over the course of the whole year. So I'll just take us back for a moment to October and the moment when college presidents and really many people in lots of industries started to put out statements around events in the Middle East. And again, many people who may know already what we chose to do at that moment, but I don't know how closely everybody follows it. So I just want to note that really starting then, it felt important to me to take a stand in a way that was different than what I was seeing going on in other colleges, largely because we had already decided to do this here. And so over a year ago, I had made a decision that I wasn't going to put out any more statements about events going on in the world, speaking for Williams. And I made that decision. You can read about it if you haven't seen it already. It's posted on my website. But really the decision was driven by a couple of core principles. The first of which was that a liberal arts college is here to teach students how to think, not what to think. And that was really the core thesis of the statement that we put out. But it was also because I had come to realize that every time I put out a statement and said that I was speaking on behalf of Williams, the very first thing that would happen is many people in the Williams community would write me back and say, but I don't think that. So you're not speaking for me. But and I was realizing, that trying to catch the pluralism of our community in singular statements that really reflected my own points of view didn't actually capture anything real about the community and what the community thinks. It's a pluralistic community. It should be a pluralistic community. It should have a range of points of view. And so I decided that we weren't going to put out any more statements, and I just didn't put out a statement, but then I heard so many questions about why we hadn't put out a statement that I said, I think we have to put out a statement explaining why we're not putting out a statement, which is now what I call now my unstatement. And so that, I think, helped set a tone for the campus this year. Of course, that was a long time ago, and many things have happened since then. There have been congressional hearings, there have been campus demonstrations, there have been arrests on campus, there have been so many other things that have happened. And so I just want to say a little more about the principles that then shaped subsequent decisions after that moment. And here I've been really governed by a very sort of core commitment to a couple of things. First, that campuses should be places where students can learn and express themselves, talk across difference, debate, study, ask, maybe change their minds. All of those things should be happening while they're in college, and we need to create a space where that can happen. That means that we believe deeply in free expression, and we want to create the context in which students can take advantage of that and others as well. And so when encampments started to crop up across college campuses, of course we had one at Williams too. And I should say, actually, we have everything at Williams. Every point of view you're reading about in the newspaper or seeing online or watching on YouTube, we have that here too. Every point of view. No surprise. And so the principled commitment that we tried to put forward out of Hopkins Hall was that that was fine as long as students followed a few key rules. And those rules really were not to harass one another, not to call for violence, not to disrupt the college regular business, if you will. People studying and learning, they have to be able to do that, and other people can't interfere with that. And as long as they followed those basic rules, then they could protest and should protest if they felt strongly about a particular issue, and others would learn from them, learn if they agreed or disagreed, engage on the issues, et cetera. And so that's really what we have done here. And it's led me, and I said this morning, but it's led me to realize how important it is to have good rules. Because once you have a rule on the book, you have to enforce that rule. And so it's really important to have the right rules. And it turns out encampments aren't against the rules at Williams. And that worked out pretty well because it allowed students to express themselves and engage. And then I should say they did so in a highly disciplined way, and they followed the rules. And the result was that we were able to get through that encampment experience. They could express themselves, make their views known, without disrupting the college in any way. And so that's really been the energy here. How can we provide the opportunity for people to talk across really challenging issues that they disagree about with each other in a way that still allows for everyone to study and learn and live here at the same time. Now, I just should say, people really disagree about these issues, and protest makes people uncomfortable. It's sort of meant to. It's designed to. The issues are heated and challenging. I'm proud of the way that Williams students navigated the year, but it didn't mean there weren't moments of real challenge for our campus. What's important, I think, to understand is that all students on the campus at any moment like this, and you can think of your own time in college, are learning through those experiences. That is, if you allow those conversations to happen, so you think about an encampment right on the main quad, it engages a certain percentage of the student body. And then everybody else is walking by it or participating in it a little bit. And every single person on the campus is sort of figuring out who they want to be and what they think in engagement with those activities that are going on. So it becomes a learning for the whole community, but it doesn't mean that the whole community is all on one side of any particular issue that's coming up in that way. And so it ended up being, I think, a pretty vibrant learning for everyone here, and ended up, I think, going more smoothly than it did in other campuses. Also aided, I should say, as I said this morning, by the fact that we are far away from large cities. Very helpful, and we are small, and that means people are accountable to each other in a way that I think isn't true in large institutions in the same way. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I can't say the next question's any easier, but no, but another topic politically related. So this topic, as you know, has been in the news consistently in the past year, is the rapidly evolving college admission landscape. Clearly, much is shifting in admission and financial aid for a number of reasons. Among them, last summer's Supreme Court decision on the consideration of race in admissions, changes to standardized testing requirements, issues with this year's FAFSA rollout, and finally, the college is approaching a $100,000 per year sticker price.
Not there yet.
So my question is, how is Williams navigating all this change?
Yeah, another easy topic. It is true that there has been a lot of change in the space of admissions, and it's interesting that when I first got to Williams now 6 years ago, I remember saying that in 10 years, admissions as we knew it would be an entirely different thing than it was when I got here. And I didn't know how it would change, but it was very clear to me that the landscape was changing. And I still actually don't know how it's going to end up. This is still a really big space of significant flux. But something just to remember as we go into talking about this topic is that the space of admissions and financial aid has never been static. I think when you think yourself about when you went to college, or if you have children or grandchildren, it feels like the moment we're in is the way it's always been. But actually, this, like all things, has evolved significantly over time. So you can recall other moments of change yourselves, of course. The transition to coeducation, for example, which changed admissions practices, or the adoption of the Common Application, which changed admissions practices. Certainly when colleges became need blind, when they became more actively need seeking, those of us that were able to do that, a growing emphasis on international students, et cetera. So something that we think of as admissions is not a fixed thing. It changes over time in light of changing political circumstances, as in the case of the Supreme Court decision around race-based admissions last year, or new technology, or changes in the financial aid landscape, et cetera. So here too, we are in a moment of great change, and continuing to try to navigate that. And we do this with a consistent focus here at Williams, where some sort of key pillars that we're committed to around accessibility and affordability as we continue to try to attract and support the most talented students that we can, and to make sure that financial barriers don't stand in the way of their participation at the college. We do this, another bedrock of our system is we do it through a holistic admissions process. Certainly we're following the law of the land. And so when the Supreme Court made the decision it did, we had to change certain aspects of our admission process to follow the new legal landscape. But even in doing that, we didn't back away from our commitments to a holistic admissions process, which seeks to evaluate students on a range of characteristics and qualities and qualifications, rather than, and we never have let any applicant in based on a single attribute. It's always been a holistic evaluation. So what's a part of that holistic evaluation may have shifted somewhat. And so now then we've spent the year really asking questions about what is the best process to use in this new landscape, and how do we have to change it? So should we have a supplemental essay, for example, is one question that Williams and other schools continue to think about. What should we do about standardized testing? Many of you know that most schools, including Williams, backed away from standardized testing and made most of our institutions test optional a few years ago. Some schools have started to go back in the other direction. Williams is still in a pilot phase around the test optional question. We have one more year of that pilot before we make a final decision, and we will do that based on our own data and how we assess how that has gone. I know many of you will ask, what about legacy? Williams continues to think about and evaluate its legacy program, of course, as part of that holistic review. Again, legacy being just one characteristic that is taken into account in admissions, never the defining feature. And as of now, there's no change in that policy because we are in this tremendously shifting landscape. And one of the things I've been saying over and over about this shifting landscape is that we need to make database decisions. So we have to actually see what happens out of a year or even a couple of years of flux and change before we make any changes or maybe decide to make no changes in other aspects of our admissions process. So our entering class is still coming together, and we look forward at the end of the summer to talking more about the characteristics of that class and to talking about any other and further changes we might make in the process going forward in light of that. But I'm quite confident in our incredible Office of Admissions and Financial Aid and the really data-driven approach they take to thinking about what the best practices are and what is most important for Williams, and how to continue reaching our goals and aims to build a diverse class, even as we navigate the shifts in the law. And so I I feel good about where we are in this process, but I want to underscore the word process. That this is one of the things that really struck me last summer was that after the Supreme Court made the decision it did, I think within 3 weeks, two prominent schools that we would consider loosely in our peer set made announcements right away about changes they were making, really dramatic changes they were making. And to me that, I try very hard not to say what I think about what other schools do, but I will share that I was a little startled by the quick decision making, because I really thought that it was important, as I say, to take a couple of, at least a year, if not a couple of years, to see, well, you know, what actually has, how can we navigate this change? What impact does it have? And that's really been our focus this year. So thank you.
Thank you. So Maud, one of the major projects you focused on this year is the planning of a new college art museum. Most of us just saw the design for the building for the first time in the most recent issue of the Williams magazine. While you're here this weekend, there's also a small exhibit in the current art museum of this project. And of course, the news media has picked up on the design and the topic and so forth. It's exciting, right? And its location right at the Rotary will, for many people, be the point of entry to the campus and to the town. So could you share with us your motivations for pursuing this ambitious project right now and what you hope it will mean for Williams students?
Yeah, thank you. So it is really exciting. I'm particularly now that we have designs that we can share and talk about, and we moved to putting shovels in the ground on this project with the hope of opening the new museum by 2027. So it is actually one of the long-standing commitments of Williams. Actually, I love to play this parlor game, so bear with me for a moment. How many of you took art history when you were at Williams? Keep your hand up and look around, right? So this has been, now you can put your hand out. This has been one of the big realities of this institution, and it has a very long-lasting impact on alumni. In fact, I've been at several panels just this weekend on the arts, and it's been really moving to hear about the impact of the undergraduate education on people who became professionally engaged in this work. But of course, one doesn't have to have professional engagement to have courses in art history and studio art really affect how one lives one's life after college as well. And so this project really comes out of that long tradition here. It's one of the uncommon strengths of this institution, and its impact is notable. In current times, over half of Williams students still take a course in art history at some point during their time at Williams. Something like 30 plus departments here have courses that draw from the collection in their teaching in one way, shape, or form. I always share this with audiences because people think, oh, art museum for teaching, that means art history courses. And yes, overwhelmingly it does. Every single art historian draws from our collection in their courses. But we have computer science courses and environmental studies courses and chemistry courses, you can tell I'm not a chemist, and history courses and dance courses, all which draw, and that's just some of them, which draw from the collection as part of their educational work. And that's what's so key about this project. This is a teaching museum. A teaching museum is different than the Clark Art Museum, which is an amazing museum down the street. It's different from Mass MoCA, a museum of contemporary art in North Adams. This is a teaching museum where students actually can, through their classes, study works of art in the room with the art and with their professors' guidance and engagement in ways that open up all kinds of possibilities for learning. The course in chemistry, for example, studies pigmentation by looking at art. The computer science course that focuses on programming and uses the study of art to think about how that is done. And so this is an interdisciplinary curricular innovation, but it's a purpose-built building that for the first time will allow us to expand our exhibition spaces somewhat, significantly expand our teaching spaces, and very importantly, if you were here in the last two presentations back on this stage, has a cafe, so that students and joking notwithstanding, it will have a cafe, but it will have study spaces and is just going to be a beautiful physical space where students can go to learn and engage with art, and not just students. It as also came up at that panel. It is free to the public, and anybody can go in and enjoy. Anybody from the Berkshires, tourists, parents, faculty and staff, etc. It is really a gem for our community. So Williams has, as you know, better than anyone, everyone here knows the incredible legacy of the grad art program, the impact on curation across the country that Williams has had, and again, that is a key part of what Williams has given to the world, and we want to lean into that. But I really want to emphasize the way this project is a stake in the ground for the humanities, and that large number of students that take art history courses that think about creative expression and art as part of their education and of what it means to be human. That is such an important part of what Williams does, and so very, very excited about that project. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I'll move a little different now. Another area of interest to many alumni is athletics and well-being. And since we've been back on campus, I don't know if you've noticed, but there is to the audience, there's a vacant lot that has emerged at the base of Spring Street where Town Fieldhouse once stood. So Maud, this is an A-B question. So first, could you share an update on the planning underway for replacing that facility and others that are in need of repair? And then B, could you share with us how you think about the college's commitment to athletics, a longstanding area of excellence for Williams, going forward, what resources it will require?
Yeah, I mean, here too, we're talking about a core commitment of the college over time. The commitment to physical education, outdoor recreation, competitive varsity athletics has been with Williams for a tremendously long part of its history. The phys ed requirement at Williams is 100 years old, which means every single student at Williams has engaged with athleticism at Williams in one way, shape, or form. My parlor game again, how many of you were varsity athletes when you were at Williams? Okay, again, if you look around the room, that's a lot of people, right? We have a tremendous history here of competitive athletics, but also recreational sports, and also the Outing Club. The Outing Club has 800 members in any given year who participate from everything from the beginning of when they get here in couple-day hiking trips to Mountain Day to Winter Carnival and all kinds of other things that the Outing Club supports. So that history is really integral to the college. But I think it's fair to say that the caliber of our program, which is extraordinary, is not actually currently matched by our facilities. And that has been true for a while at Williams, and has in fact been a part of our strategic plan, which 2021, when we articulated it, made clear that it was quite important for Williams to invest in the athletics and well-being side of our campus. And we were well on the route to doing that when, as I like to badly joke, the Town Fieldhouse announced its early retirement. Just a smidgen before I was ready. It was the plan was to celebrate its retirement once the Art Museum project had been concluded. But actually, we knew, and I think any one of my coaches would have told you that this was that we knew that this was coming and that we needed to work on this. And so happily, thanks to some really great work by the team here and some support by very generous alumni, we've been able to move for academic time quite quickly. We took down Town Fieldhouse, and we've moved forward with our multipurpose recreation center, which is going to go up by we hope by the end of 2025, adjacent to the tennis courts. That's going to be an interim field house and eventually an indoor tennis facility while we continue to do the program study that we've launched for the upcoming year to figure out what the long-term athletics and recreation spaces need to look like. And so that's obviously going to be a multi-year project. If you come back for subsequent reunions, we'll update you. That's not a project that is going to happen in 2 years. But the process of getting it going is well underway. And indeed, the recreation center we call the MRC will be up faster than the art museum, actually, which we've been working on a lot longer, so that particularly our students who engage in winter sports we would like to prevent disrupted seasons as fast as we can. So we're trying to get that up and running. But we also use that. We use the field house for commencements when it rains, for testing during pandemics, for all kinds of things. And so we really do need a space up for that as well. So much more to come in this space as we continue to do this work. But I think we're quite excited about the direction things are headed. Thank you.
All right, so let me end on my list of questions with a topic that's not very exciting but hugely consequential, and it's the college's financial model. For the past 4 years...
I think that's exciting.
So since COVID, right, we've been going something of an economic roller coaster here with financial fluctuations, inflation, creating a new economic environment. So again, an A-B question. How is the college thinking differently about its finances today? And then B, what do today's realities mean for the implementation of the college's 2021 strategic plan?
Well, I love this question. Thank you. So I want to just begin by saying how fortunate I feel all the time to be the president of Williams for lots of reasons. There are so many reasons. This is an extraordinary institution, and I feel incredibly privileged to lead it for so many reasons. One of the amazing aspects of being president of this institution is the resources that we have. We have a very generous and robust endowment thanks to years and years and years of support by alumni such as yourselves and those who preceded you and those who've come after, and a very well-managed endowment thanks to my predecessors and the board going back for a long time. And because of that, we can do a lot of things at Williams. We can do a lot of things better than a lot of other schools, actually, because we have the resources, particularly to support that 7-to-1 student-to-faculty ratio that marks us as distinctive from our peers. It allows us to do the tutorial program, which is quite a distinctive program, thanks to that spread of resources. It allows us to support the financial aid that we support here, which is so critical, et cetera, et cetera. And that's amazing. The endowment yields money that allows us to do that every year. And that's what we use the endowment for. It covers about 55% of our budget every year. That's very significant in higher education. Most schools, any school with an endowment uses some of the endowment to support the work that they do. But Williams 55% of its annual budget comes from that endowment. So that is higher than peers. And again, it's what allows us to do what we do. And I am really grateful for it. And even so, with all of those resources, like any institution, we operate in a budget, and we can do some things and we can't do other things. And managing it in a disciplined way has actually been one of the inheritances that I received from other again, from my predecessors who have managed it very well and very responsibly over time. And that means that in order to do new things at Williams, we raise money. And one of the questions I sometimes get is, well, why does a wealthy institution need money? And it's actually the case that because the endowment allows us to do what we currently do, if we want to do new things, if we want to reach those new strategic initiatives, to get to part B of your question, we actually have to raise money in order to reach those goals. Or alternatively, stop doing certain things that allow us to do new things, or raise money to do new things, or some combination therein. And so as we make those big decisions for the institutions, we do it guided by the strategic plans and the principled aspirations that we seek to reach, and also by now, and you will hear more and more about this over the years, moving to a sort of what we're calling strategic initiative fundraising. So rather than sort of an omnibus campaign, which is typically what you would be used to in institutions of higher learning, we have been really focused on project-based fundraising for the key initiatives that we are moving forward. And so I can give you just a couple of examples so you can see how this has worked. So the new Davis Center, which Laura mentioned in her introduction, the Multicultural Center, just opened after a targeted fundraising outreach for that project. By doing strategic initiative-based funding focused on particular projects, we were able to bring in hundreds of new donors who had never actually given to a project like that before at Williams, because it was very much targeted to a set of concerns and questions that was meaningful to them. We are pursuing a similar approach with the all-grant financial aid program, which has garnered tremendous support from the Williams alumni community. I'm always so heartened, I'll just say as a side note, that whenever somebody mentions that program from a stage, the audience breaks into applause. And to me, that is very meaningful, because I think it points to the values of this community and to the desire of the alumni to pay it forward, to give new generations of Williams the opportunities that all of you've had. And it's also very heartening to see the degree to which alumni support has moved to seek to cover the endowment over time. Well, it's about an $80 million endowment that would have to cover that. We announced that initiative without raising a penny, knowing that many people would be interested in supporting it over time, and we do continue to fundraise for that. Likewise, the Art Museum is another one of our strategic initiatives, the athletic initiative that you spoke of. And so all of these are efforts for which we continue to raise money so that we can reach new aspirations and do new things, even while we continue to support the tremendous activities that are going on campus all the time. So thank you.
Thank you. Maud, thank you for being here. I must say, I have the privilege of attending many meetings and getting updates on what's going on at the campus, and I think the broad range of questions was my attempt to try and help you to help us know what's going on since we've been back here. But that's all the questions I have, but we have a moment now where we can open questions up to the audience. And we probably have about 15 or so minutes, and I must say I can see everyone up here. The lights are very bright, so I can't see anyone upstairs. But I see a hand back there. Before we get to that, I just want to give everyone a little bit of the structure we have here. So we'll have some mic runners who run around to try and give you a microphone, because even though you think that you can be heard, you probably cannot be heard. So we want to make sure, and then you have to make sure, one, you project, and so we can hear your voice, and also hear your question. But I do ask that you give your name and class year and state your question for Maud. And we make sure, please, when you're stating a question, it's in the form of a question rather than a comment, okay? All right, thank you. So I see a hand that's raised way in the back.
Is there a microphone going back there? Okay, if not, I'll repeat your question. Go ahead.
Okay, well, you may not be able to. My question is for Maud, and it has to do with sexual harassment.
Yes.
When I was here, I can't remember whether it was 10 or 15 years ago, I've come to every reunion. I was actually shocked to hear the current president talk about sexual harassment being an issue on Williams College campus. Because I thought everybody here was like, the cat's meow, right? But it reflected a time that, there was a lot of sexual harassment going on all across the country, across the world, and, following the Me Too movement followed. Anyway, the president at the time said one of the ways that they're combating this is recognizing that a lot of this behavior happens at night and it involves alcohol. Not just one person's part, but both sexes. And so one of the things he was trying to do at that time was to create more opportunities to do things that didn't involve alcohol, which I thought was just very sensible. And I'm just wondering, I don't hear about that anymore. And I'm just wondering whether you think we're now in a new era, that we've, got we're asking for consent, we've got the friends, making sure friends don't drink too much or whatever. How have we been successful? I know this preceded your tenure, but it's still, a factor. And how have you been successful?
So the question is about sexual harassment on campus and how has our approach changed over time? And I love the phrase, how have you been successful? A leading question, and I wish I could say declare success. I would say that if you follow higher ed news, you'll know that evolving Title IX rules have actually continued to evolve quite a bit over various presidential administrations, and has continued to shine a light on issues of sexual harassment and sexual violence on college campuses. I like to say I do think Williams is the cat's meow. I do think we have wonderful people here, and we have all the issues other campuses have. Of course we do, including drinking and challenges between and among students. The college has continued to pursue the kinds of alternative activities that you talk about, and actually we have many students these days who opt out of the culture of sort of partying and drinking, but we have many who opt in. It's obviously illegal on campus, and so that shapes what students can do on campus, but we don't have a lot of control about what happens off campus, so that's another area where sometimes this can happen. But we do have very robust Title IX policies and support for students both in the Office of the Dean of the College and in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to support students who have faced these kinds of challenges. So that's on the back end, sort of the repair work and trying to support people who have encountered these kinds of issues. And of course, a great deal of education, particularly coming out of the Office of the Dean of the College, focused on teaching about consent, teaching about healthy relationships, providing students with bystander education so they can help each other when they get in a tough situation, and all of those factors. And so we do a lot of work in education in that area, very much focused on the goal of creating responsible adults who can make good choices and navigate difficult situations. I wish I could tell you we'd solved the problem, but no campus has, actually. But we do continue to work on it and elevate it as a significant issue for students who live in a co-ed environment and engage with each other all the time when we're not around. So, thank you.
Let's see, right there.
Maud, Eric Soskin, I'm in the class of 1999, so this is our 25th reunion.
Congratulations.
Class. And in our 30 years since we were applying for college admission here, you're the 5th president of Williams College. In the first, say, 170 years, there were 10 presidents of Williams College. And I would just like to hear your perspective on whether the world moves faster today, and is the quickening change in leadership What's your perspective on that?
Are you asking me if I'm leaving? Is that the question? let's just level with each other. So, yay.
But I would love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, it's a fan, and I didn't mean to teach you. Well, maybe I did, but it's a fair question. So the question was about the change. Actually, I'm going to even make it a bigger question than it was. It's fascinating to me, the changing role of the college president and the ways in which it's not just presidents, but college leaders in general. The turnover is higher. People move around more, and I believe actually taking. I'm going to say schools like Williams. I know you think there's no school like Williams, but taking schools like Williams out of the equation just for the moment, the average tenure of a college president right now, the average is 6 years. And that was actually before this year. So it might have gone down. But the average was 6 years. So there are a lot of openings right now, just saying. So that was the average. So that means, think about averages. You go back to your college math, right? The number of college presidents that leave after 2 or 3 years in lots of places. It's not so typical for schools like Williams. I will say that no schools like Williams, but the sector, which is tends to have presidents stay longer. And at least so far, that doesn't seem to be changing too much to me. I know there is quite a bit of turnover at the moment in some of the Ivy schools, some of which wasn't so fast. The president of Yale was 11 years, and obviously Harvard has been a notable exception for the last few years. But it's a hard job, and it's gotten harder. I think. I don't actually think the job itself has gotten. I don't think the actual daily work is harder. I think what's gotten harder is, and so one of the things I've said for years about being a college president is people think president, oh, that's like a CEO. The word makes you think of an elected official, right? But it's like being a CEO. You're in charge. You have power. And there is power in the role. But really, I say it's much more like being a mayor. Actually, like all the constituents coming at you, I don't actually think that's the part of the job that's changed. There's a lot of constituents, and all of the constituents have a certain entrenched power of their own, whether it's students who are the sort of the point of the place, right? So that's a certain kind of power. They feel quite powerless, but it's a certain kind of power. The faculty who also feel powerless, but actually tenure gives them quite a bit of voice and power. And after all, we're here because of the students and the faculty. So, the alumni for other reasons, towns members, all kinds of folks have a say. But I don't think that's what makes it different. I think what's making it different is the eyes in a way, has changed dramatically. So when you think back to, frankly, anybody here, maybe except the class of 2019, who's celebrating their fifth year commencement right now, when things happened on the campus, maybe somebody would hear about it. Like maybe alumni would get the record mailed out to them 2 weeks later and type a message to the college president, which would get put in an envelope with a stamp and mailed back. And it would make its way into the archive, and maybe the president would respond. And I'm not saying that wasn't, if you read Frank Oakley's memoir, you can see it was hard then. I'm not saying there weren't challenges, but the speed of and the extent of the information and the degree to which people are paying attention has changed so much. So one story I tell about my first year here was when something happened on campus that the record opined about, and the way I found out about it was that we made it onto Fox News that night through a series of things that happened that I'm not going to go through right now. But before I had read the op-ed or the editorial in the college newspaper, and it just, that is sort of and that was then. Right now, what happened this year. So I just think the speed, the number of people paying attention, the speed with which those interactions happen, and then what happens. You can tell me, but my sense is, for folks who aren't paying very close attention, suddenly they're worried, right? Like something happens at Stanford or Harvard or Pomona or some other school, and I'm getting letters of people nervous about Williams, even if something isn't happening here, because it's just sort of in the air at this point. So I do think that has affected, and so it's tiring. And so I think at least in schools other than Williams, where it's always a joy every single day, all the time, maybe some of my colleagues will move faster than has been the case at other places. Thank you.
All right. So, first of all, Maud's not going anywhere. She'll be around here all weekend long. But I think I've just gotten the nod that we have time for exactly one more question here. So, how about right down in front?
So, to Matt Osborne Roberts, class of '99, and similarly horrified to my other classmates that we have now graduated at the turn of the century. That's what the young kids are saying. Thank you for talking a lot about how you've been navigating the political things that have been coming at you, because so much currently in America is politicized. I'm curious, how do you navigate political issues that really do demand an answer? And the one I'm really particularly interested in is pluralism. And the fact that pluralism sadly has become politicized, and diversity sadly has become politicized. But in a liberal arts atmosphere, it's part and parcel to the education in and of itself. And I don't mean so much what are you doing externally, but like what sorts of things are happening, governing philosophy, administration, those sorts of things here, in smaller but really important ways to address that and make sure that the campus remains a safe, open, welcoming place for all students who choose.
Thank you. It's something we spend a lot of time thinking about. So the question is about how do we support pluralism on campus and make sure it's a place, I'll use the language of belonging, a place where people feel that they are included and belong in a way that empowers them to, I would say, engage in a pluralistic society, because you need to feel like you have a voice in order to use the voice, and that you have a voice in a way that everybody else has a voice, right? And it's essential. It is really. It is essential, and it is a work in progress all the time. So it sort of goes back to the earlier question about sexual harassment. We're not seeking to get to a place. We work every day to reach an aspiration, to be the kind of place that you described. So that's the high-level answer. More specifically, what do we do on the campus? Well, we begin, of course, by the commitment to access and affordability. So we seek to create, and that goes back to those admissions conversations, a truly diverse community, and diverse along every metric. I mean, we try very hard through lots of things. Geographic and socioeconomic and ethnic and national, and right, we seek to and others that. You can talk about, we have a non-traditional student population here now, so we have students who are older on the campus, students who come from military backgrounds and community college backgrounds. So we really try to bring in a range of perspectives and backgrounds to the campus. And then once folks are here, we try to provide, and I actually think this is something Williams does really well, we try to provide resources so that students, no matter where they come from, can find people here who can help them navigate Williams. Because we know, and the research tells us this, and our experience of being here tells us this, that it's easier for some than others, depending on if you're first in your family to go to college, you come with a different set of experiences than if you're a third generation Williams family. Doesn't mean the latter is necessarily predestined to have it always be easy, but there are different levels of engagement, right? So we have deans that support different kinds of students. We have chaplains that support students from a range of backgrounds. We have staff in the Davis Center and the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And all of these staff are available for everyone, and I think that's really important to say, and so people can find who they need in a particular moment. So to just, to be real about this year, it was a year where students often needed to find sub-communities in order to do the thing you said. And this is the really specific point of what I think Williams does well, and why I say it's a work in progress. I probably will never be able to tell you that every single student at Williams feels like they belong every single day. I would like, that is my aspiration, and I will be sad if I don't achieve it, but I probably won't achieve it. That is the work that's never done. But what I can do is work to make sure that when a student feels like they don't belong, for whatever reason, that they have resources they can turn to and a sub-community they can turn to support them in those moments. And so, again, to use an example from this year, when students were struggling over very raw and different points of view, not necessarily narrowly defined around identity, but around what they thought about, say, the Middle East, finding places where they could go and people they could talk to was sometimes what they needed, right, as a way to feel like they belonged in the wider community. They needed that sub-community. And so we support that with affinity groups and with, as I say, staff that I talked about, and of course, and always, and I have to go back to this as the last point, faculty. And this is really important to understand. Faculty who are deeply committed to teaching students, no matter where they come from, what they know, what they think, around a huge range of diverse issues. And I'll just share, it seems like a great place to end to share that one of the things I heard in October when this happened to be a time where I was hearing from students who were telling me from a range of backgrounds, I don't feel supported or like I belong here right now. And I can share that I heard that from, I don't like this language, but from both sides, right? I was hearing from people sort of on some kind of side that people believe there's two sides too, that, from both of those sides, that they felt like this institution didn't hear them and they didn't feel supported and they weren't feeling good and they needed support. So I was hearing that. But every student I heard that from, who was actually taking courses in the subject matter that was relevant to the topic that we were talking about, when I said, well, how are your classes going in the history department or in political science or in some of the language departments that were doing work in this area. And in every single case, the students were like, oh, my classes are great. The professors are doing a really good job creating space where we can have these conversations, right? So, and let's not dismiss that. That's really important, even while people are feeling beleaguered and distressed and angry at me, just cause, and angry at their fellow students because they said something, et cetera. So I like to think we're aspirational, work in progress, but that we do it well and with the right goals. So thank you. And thanks to all of you so much.
So thank you, fellow alumni, for your time and attention. Maud, thank you for sharing your perspective. Everyone, have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing us gather again tomorrow morning for the parade.
Hooray.
And then the annual meeting.